into this interview today, could you please share with us, our readers, a bit about yourself and your journey at the company?
Sure. So my name is Tamara Beydoun. I'm originally half Lebanese, half Palestinian. I
Mm,
was born in Beirut, Lebanon. I sort of lived on and off in Lebanon due to war. You know, the first time I had to leave Lebanon because of war and be displaced, I was 5 years old. And this sort of started the patterns of a certain childhood, but a lot of instability due to
mm,
war. So I lived in Athens, I lived in Paris, and then at the age of 15, I moved to London,
yep.
where I sort of finished my school, my university, and started my career. My career path has been quite. I love learning, I have to say, and I wish I knew that when I was at school, because at school I didn't enjoy learning, but this is how it worked. So I started. I mean, I had a career mostly in marketing,
Mm,
and mostly in the hospitality industry. And I also worked with within also the media industry. And
mm,
then I lived in London. I had my kids, and we moved to the south of France. We were looking for a better quality of life for the family. We lived there for 7 years, and then I've now been in Geneva since 2009.
mm,
And I have three kids, older kids, twins who are 21, and an older daughter who lives in London and works in London who's 23.
yep.
And so I had a career in marketing. I worked in tourism. And before COVID hit, I just felt like I needed a shift.
Mm,
And it was quite lucky because I used to work at the tourism board in Geneva. And obviously, with COVID, there was no tourism. So, I mean, somehow I stopped my marketing career in tourism and started my own journey in personal growth and personal development. And this gave me a lot of a completely different way of experiencing life, to be honest. It was very
mm,
empowering. It was very painful at times. When we start our own journey, we sort of start shedding a lot of emotions that were repressed, emotions and experiences that we chose to block, but they are so important. I mean, repressing them is being in denial, and facing them, as difficult as it is freedom, and is freeing, and is liberating, and is empowering. And we all can do that. I mean, we suffer so much in actually trying to escape these feelings and these experiences. And once we face them, as painful as it is, the suffering ends at some point.
mm,
So this was my own personal journey, and feeling this shift within me, and feeling the shift also in my connections, especially with my children and my close friends. It was such a positive shift, and I felt like I want to contribute back to this society. I have three
mm,
children. I want to leave a certain mark. Even, and I've always told myself, even if I have an impact on one person, I'd
yep.
be happy. So this led me to, I've always also been interested in nutrition as a child, but somehow I never studied it. And I thought, okay, I want a bit more than nutrition. And I got into functional medicine. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Mm,
So
not really. Yeah. Can you
functional
please?
medicine is like extremely, extremely gaining popularity as a way of treating our symptoms, especially in the US and in the UK, and it's really taking off globally. So basically, it's looking at any sickness, any diseases, and understanding the root cause.
Right.
Conventional medicine is great. We go to a doctor, they do an amazing job. As someone who's in pain, we stop the suffering, we stop the pain, we
Mm,
look at the symptoms, and the symptoms are really extremely well managed, and that is amazing. And we need that, but sometimes what we're missing as well is really understanding what is the root cause of these
yep.
symptoms. And
Mm,
we're talking about inflammation, we're talking about chronic migraines, a lot of this bloating, a lot of the symptoms we have go back to really sometimes the very past experiences, as far as your childhood. So in
Mm.
functional medicine, we do that. We look at the root causes. It somehow sometimes could also be very effective in also doing preventative care. So for example, like my mother passed away, she had Alzheimer's.
Oh.
And my aunt as well had Alzheimer's. And personally, I was really worried. I'm like, okay, am I going to get Alzheimer's? So I did the genetic testing. I have no genetic gene of Alzheimer's. However,
Yeah.
I also tested, I wanted to be tested for metals. Metals are one of the main causes potentially of Alzheimer's. And I have very high levels of mercury and lead. Today, I'm really healthy and I'm going on a really detox program, including supplements, saunas, wherever, changing certain foods that I eat to detox from these metals to reduce my risk of Alzheimer's. And how powerful is that? I mean, of course, there's no guarantee that I
Mm.
won't end up with Alzheimer's, but I'm taking charge of my life and any
Right.
potential diseases or illnesses I might have. And this is what functional medicine potentially is about. So basically, it looks at all aspects of us as a human being: food, nutrition, movement, sleep, community. Community is extremely important for our well-being, emotional well-being, career.
Mm.
It's a really, because we're one person. Everything impacts the other. If I'm in an emotional state that is not healthy, it's going to impact my gut. It's going to impact my mental health. So we can't just take okay, I'm having liver problem, I only work on the liver. It's going to have an impact on the whole body. So this is what we do in functional medicine. Now, I'm not a practitioner, but I'm a health coach. So I'm here to really, I'm the cheerleader of my clients. I listen to their challenges. I listen to their vision. I work a lot in positive psychology and values.
Mm.
And together we set goals. And every session I have with my clients, the session always ends with a SMART goal during which they set
Yeah.
up the goal. So as a coach, I'm asked the right questions. I
Mm.
hope, this is what I would like to think, very good active listening skills. I listen to what is not being said, not only what is being said. And with that, and we use character strengths a lot, with that, we set goals for the client to reach their goals and their aims and their vision.
I
And
see.
so I do that, and I'm certified from the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, which is ICF and CPD accredited. This is really
Mm.
important because there are so many coaching certifications these days. And I mean, looking at, you know, them being ICF accredited for me is crucial. So this was done a few years ago, and I love doing that, and I love coaching in functional medicine. But I also observed that a lot of my clients have very repeated patterns of setbacks when we're setting goals.
Mm.
And I wanted us to get more curious about that. And often this is where I thought, okay, trauma has a role here. And when we talk about trauma, it doesn't have to be war or sexual abuse. I mean, trauma is a wound, is an emotional wound that never healed.
Mm.
So, it can, I mean, we call them capital T and little t, but, trauma is trauma and there are unhealed wounds. And sometimes because of these unhealed wounds, we repeat patterns that are familiar to us but may not be in our best interest. So I
Yeah.
did a somatic trauma coaching certification, again accredited by ICF and CPD. And the combination I personally find is very powerful. So a lot of times I start, clients come to me because they want to set goals regarding their exercise routine or their sleep routine, and then we start working on that. And as trust is built, which is, like, to me, one of the most important aspects of a client coach relationship, as trust
Mm.
is instilled within 3 sessions, 4 sessions,
Yes, correct.
things start opening up. The client we set goals about movement or food or whatever their goal is. They're doing well, they're motivated, and also slowly they're like getting some setbacks, which is very normal. 95% of our goals have setbacks. So we also
Mm.
normalize that with a lot of compassion as well. And I do a lot of work with my clients in self-compassion. But then we like start really getting curious about these setbacks and look at patterns in the past where they've set similar goals and they've had similar setbacks. And often when we get curious, it goes back to some childhood emotional trauma. So the combination is very powerful in getting them to really achieve their vision in life, their goals, the best version of themselves. And this is, how this journey basically, this is the journey. This is my coaching journey. It's been
Mm.
going on since 2019. It started as my own journey, and now I share it with others. And I set up my own practice, which is Tamara Bay Coaching. I also
Mm.
do narcissistic abuse coaching as well. So if
Yep.
somebody is in a narcissistic relationship, I mean, unfortunately, when we're in such a relationship, we don't know we're in it. So, I would rather say in unhealthy relationships and not limited only to narcissistic abuse. I also work with clients in helping them recover, or if they're in such a relationship, empower them. Empower
Mm.
them. The reality is most of us want to be heard,
Right.
really
Yes.
heard with compassion, heard without judgment, heard in a safe space. That's that's a need we so much desperately want, to be acknowledged. Like, I feel
Mm.
your pain. I know this is not easy. You can do that, and you're not alone.
Yep.
So, giving that space to clients is very powerful.
Yeah. Understand. Yeah, that's really amazing to listen to your journey. You have a very different trajectory compared to other people who started off with, the nutrition and health coach at the very first place, but you went through different courses of lives and then explore your own and inner passion of being a health coach. And ever since has making such progress that I really admire. So yes, let's take a step back and think about like the wellness. We our readers here would love to understand more about what wellness means to you, and how do you currently prioritize it in your life, as well as encouraging your clients to prioritize it in their lives, because as you mentioned, there are a lot of priorities in the lives that people have to manage each and every day.
Mm,
So if wellness plays a very instrumental role, how do you
mm.
currently prioritize it?
I think it's a really great question. And, I think most of us aim for wellness. But the reality is, my experience and with my clients as well, I think what's very difficult with wellness is if we lack self-compassion towards ourselves, how can we take care of ourselves? So to
Yeah.
me, that's my experience, and this is what I practice with my clients, is to instill self-compassion. Because if you
Mm.
like, if when we love our kids, which we do, we give them so much, right?
Yeah.
But why don't we give ourselves this care?
Mm.
Unfortunately, many of us lack self-compassion. So
Yeah.
when you really, really in your body feel compassionate for the miracle each one of us is, because each one of us is such a miracle. You want to take care of that. And then automatically you want to nourish your body.
Yeah.
Automatically, when you're self-compassionate, you're going to be attuned to what's happening in your body. Assuming, let's say,
Mm.
starting with food.
Yeah.
The moment you're self-compassionate, really self-compassionate, you're going to want to feed your body the best food out there because you matter.
Right.
So to me, I mean, this is one aspect. Same with sleep, and the more self-compassionate you are, the more there is a self-attunement.
Mm.
to what's happening there. So even with relationships, even with connections, you'll be much more at ease setting boundaries, which is such an important part of well-being. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say that
Mm.
doesn't work for me. That doesn't mean I don't like you. On the contrary, I cherish so much this connection that I want to show up with total authenticity with you. How amazing is that? So to me, this is part of well-being. Well-being is not only eating well. If you're eating well, but you're
Mm.
surrounded by, you know, people you're not aligned with, you're not going to be
Yes.
in a state of amazing well-being. If you're eating well and sleeping terrible, well, that's nearly, I mean, it's also connected. So this is why the
Mm.
starting point for me is really self-compassion, because if you're self-compassionate, all other aspects will slowly fall into place. So my well-being, I mean, of course, I really enjoy nourishing my body with like really healthy food. I
Mm.
always like, I'll give you an example. In the past, I wouldn't have breakfast. Now I try to have a good breakfast. I normally start with warm water and ginger shot in the morning,
Yep.
ginger and lemon, and then I have a healthy smoothie with broccoli and
Mm.
some frozen berries and protein uh, um, and I always start also. I try to avoid the phone in the morning. I give myself a good half an hour. It's not always
Yep.
easy, but I try. And if I don't do it, I'm also, I'm compassionate towards myself today that I didn't, for
Mm.
example. And I try to practice some breathing in the morning. It can be meditation. It can be like Wim Hof. I don't know if you're familiar with him, some special breathing techniques to start my day. If I can, I try to exercise 5 times a week. And, I exercise also with a lot of gentleness. So I do some
Mm.
resistance training twice a week, and I do just running 3 kilometers. It's very achievable, nothing aggressive.
Yeah.
And, I mean, luckily I also live in Geneva, Switzerland. So, we have amazing landscape. I always spend a bit of time looking out the window and enjoying the view. Like there's such
Mm.
beauty in the outside world with, even looking at the sky, looking at the sun, even if it's raining, being in the moment.
Mm.
Then, of course, I mean, that's typically my well-being. I tend to sleep 9 to 10 hours a day.
Yep.
I avoid alcohol. I have it occasionally, and I know it's really not, I'd rather not have it at all, but occasionally I'd have it. And
Mm.
whenever I have setbacks, I mean, I'm not a robot. I also enjoy sometimes, food that may not be so healthy, and that's okay. But I would say 95% of the time, or 90% of the time, I nourish my body with healthy food and healthy environments. If it's
Right.
too noisy, for example, at some point I need to ground myself. So then I
Mm.
take care of me. I know what my body needs. So if it gets too much, I take a break for 2 days. I'm in a much calmer environment. Um, I, to me, relationships, not just intimate relationships, but like, the community around me is very important. So I really, really, again, I'm very attuned to people who I don't feel good around. And it's just
Yes.
it's nothing to do with the other person. But if I have a conversation with someone or I have a lunch with someone, I always, after leaving that person, I always, just for a few minutes, spend a bit of time with myself thinking, how do I feel after this? Has this person drained
Mm.
my energy, or do I feel expansive? And
Yep.
really, when you give a 2-minute curiosity inquiry, the body will immediately give you the answer. And if someone drains me like once, twice, uh, the connection.
Mm.
Often when we're drained, it's because we're misaligned. Like I'm not in my alignment when it comes to my values, when it comes to whatever, and it's really nothing to do with the other person. It's just the way I feel. It's not
Right.
personal. So I need to take care of myself. I
Mm.
prioritize myself. So, I mean, obviously in work, I mean, sometimes we have to work with people we're not totally aligned with, but, I also use tools to protect me from this energy. I meditate,
Mm.
I do tapping, I walk a lot in nature. I love walking in nature. So yeah, I think this is more or less how I take care of my own well-being. But well-being for me is a lot more than just food
Yes.
and exercise,
Yes.
a lot more. And I think this is where sometimes uh, we limit ourselves. My mental
Right.
well-being is very important. The community, the environment, who I spend time with, how do I set my boundaries? I mean, when you set boundaries, you do it with compassion. You don't. I don't believe I'm aggressive with people. I hope I'm not, and
Mm.
if I am, I'm sorry. But I mean, a no is a no, and that's it.
Yes. So from your sharing, it seems like it's more about a combination of both the mind, body, as well as spirit aspect that kind of
Absolutely.
capture the whole well-being
Yeah.
in your definition, right?
100%. I think more definitely. And another thing I do for my own well-being is I really join retreats 2, 3 times a week,
Mm.
because retreats really also, I mean, often we're in retreats with like-minded people. So, sometimes in a
Yeah.
world that can be a bit difficult, it's nice to reconnect with people who are very much aligned to you. It gives me hope as well.
Mm.
And if I'm a bit misaligned, it brings me back to what is
Yes.
important to me. And yeah, it's a time for me. It's about priority. And we've also grown up, I think, in a society where we feel if we prioritize me, we're selfish. And this is like completely,
Mm.
there's a big difference between prioritizing you and being selfish. A huge difference.
Yeah.
Selfish is actually putting yourself first at the expense of someone else. But
Right.
prioritizing you is not at the expense of someone else. So I also worked a
Mm.
lot with
Yep.
nonviolent communication. Actually, this was one of my first um, the first go-to tools on my own personal growth journey. And nonviolent communication really connected me to feelings, understanding my own feelings, and taking full
Mm.
um, full control of my own feelings. And I don't know if you're familiar with nonviolent communication, Marshall Rosenberg.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
basically, it's an amazing way of communicating with others, about your feelings and the needs behind your feelings. And,
Mm.
with a certain amount of compassion, making a request to the other to support you in meeting these needs. And the other person has every right to say no.
Mm.
This is what I always tell my children and my clients. When you make a request, you have to also accept a no. And you know what? When somebody says no, I also think I appreciate it, because this person is being able to be very authentic with me.
Mm.
So,
Yep.
I work a lot with that as well. And it's a great form of, expressing and having uncomfortable conversation.
Yes. Right. So, Tamara, in terms of the coaching styles, because I noticed that you also touch on that a bit, but here we'd love to understand more about, what kind of coaching styles do you prefer? Do you prefer like a structured, flexible, or kind of a mixed? And how do you think this will impact your coaching experience as well?
So it's an interesting question, because really my coaching style is unique to me, of course, but my sessions are
Mm.
always client led. I never set the
Yes.
agenda for the session. I mean, I might have a client and we could be working on, let's say, trauma, and going through what triggers him or her and how we can work with these triggers. And then they could come back the following week and they'd be like, okay, today we
Mm.
want to talk about my career. This is really taking up a lot of my space. So really, really, the focus of every session is client-led. Now, the way I work is, firstly, we have a discovery session. The client books a free
Right.
discovery. The potential client books a free discovery session with me, whereby we spend half an hour talking about their
Yes.
needs, what they want to achieve, why are they seeking a coach, and I tell them how I work, and we see if it's a good match. Following that, if they want to work, I send a contract and I send a couple of forms, and we do a foundation session, and this could take up to 90 minutes. And then I would recommend normally that they take a package of either 6 sessions or 12, because as a behavioral change expert, and this is what my coaching is about, we can't have change in one session. Normally, really, it takes 3 months. So I would normally recommend 12 sessions, but 6 sessions also are okay. And then, depending on what their goal is, we start slowly getting deeper and deeper into how they're going to achieve that goal. So in terms of how I work, as I said, I work a lot with self-compassion and positive psychology. And a lot of my questions, we call them in coaching motivational interviewing question. So we focus a lot on positive. In that, let's say you wanna improve your sleep. My questions would be more on, when did you have that in your life? When did you sleep well? Let's say 2 years ago. Tell me how you felt. So I want you to relive that experience of when the
Mm-mm.
sleep was working well. So you get intrinsically motivated to do it again. Because I can't motivate you. The motivation has to come from you. I can't do the work for you. But I can make you feel how great it was, how sleeping better impacted positively your food, how it impacted positively your work, how it impacted positively your mood. And like you relive it so much, like you want to do it again. And you will do anything and everything
Yes.
to do it again. So we work a lot with that. I work a lot with character strengths, which is, I don't know if you're
Mm.
familiar with the VIA survey. There are 24 strengths globally that we all have, and these can be, kindness, curiosity, love of learning, love of nature, and they are all good. There's not one strength better than the other. So you do a survey, and we will see what your top strengths are. And typically, when
Mm.
we work a lot with your top 5 strengths, because when you integrate these character strengths into your daily life, you feel a lot of joy. So, whatever goals you want to work towards, my question would be, what strengths are you going to be using to achieve this goal this week? And this will bring you a lot
Understood.
of joy in getting to accomplish that goal. And, with joy, you feel more motivated. So this is typically how I work.
Mm.
And then, I mean, if we start getting into trauma, we have a lot of different methods of like working with the nervous system, making sure you're, getting it into a rest and digest place instead of being in survival mode, understanding your triggers, understanding, I also work a bit with internal family system and the different protective
Mm.
parts. Yeah, that's
Understand. So, yes, clearly having a coach, a health coach, will help the client stay more accountable and motivated to achieve their goals, right? Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
right.
And that accountability
So,
part. And typically, I would
yes.
recommend weekly sessions. Now, if we're only working in functional medicine, half-hour sessions are good enough. And I
Mm.
like to keep them short because then they're not taking up too much time from the client's agenda. We do these often on Zoom. But once we start hitting trauma issues, then 30 minutes becomes too short. And then I have different packages for like 45 to 50 minutes, even 60 minutes. Because, if somebody's going through a
Yep.
traumatic, talking about a traumatic experience, and, often there are tears, and we welcome tears, a half hour is like, it's too short.
Mm. Yes. But then from your own experience, Tamara, what is some personal aspirations that you hope to achieve from your coaching sessions?
To me, I always tell my clients, my biggest achievement would be for you not to book me again. Like, I don't want you to be my client forever.
Mm.
I want to give you all
Yes,
the tools so that you go on your own. And, you can
right.
always check in with me, and this is what happened actually not so long ago. I have a client, she bought two 12 packages, two sets of
Mm.
12 packages. So that's 24. And they were mostly weekly. And I was like, whilst we came to the end of the packages, I asked her, what do you want to do now? She goes, what do you think? And I'm like, what do you think? How do you feel? And she said, okay, maybe we can start spreading them, and maybe I'll do one session and pay for per session, or maybe I'll buy, 6 sessions. And I said, this is a celebration. This is really a celebration.
Mm.
It means you're now in a place of empowerment. You have these tools because, at the end of the day, life will always throw challenges at you. That's life. It's how you react to
Mm.
these challenges. And if you have the tools, you'll be able to navigate them in a way that is, quite healthy, and you won't be completely overwhelmed by these challenges. So I provide the
Mm.
tools through, self-compassion, through different, a toolkit, journaling, whatever is coming up. And then if the client, to me, really, if I hear my client tells me after a package of 12 or 24, like, I think I'm ready to go on my own, I've empowered these clients. They
Mm.
believe in themselves. I'd be much
Yes,
more concerned if
amazing.
a client stays with me for 2 or 3 years. I mean, keeping in mind that I'm not a therapist either,
Yeah.
or, I'm a coach, I'm not a therapist. So, if somebody has some deep trauma, I always refer them to a therapist. This is not for me to, I also have to really respect my scope of work. But as a coach, I think it's all about empowering my clients to be able to navigate life and its challenges and its ups and downs alone. And I'm here. They know I'm here. I mean, my client is like, okay, you know what? Now we'll see each other in 3-4 weeks, and, maybe we'll start spreading it out. And whenever she needs me, she sends me a message and we can reconnect.
Yes, amazing.
So
Yes. So
seeing
your
that is
goal at
really
the end of the day,
powerful.
yes, understand. Yes, to help the clients achieve their goal and give them the tools to do so on their own, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, amazing. Yes. So yeah, I think that also the wraps up the interview parts for today as well. I don't know from yourself, Tamara, is there anything else that you'd like to share or anything notable about you that you'd love us to include in the like the storyline as well? Please feel free to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just would like to share that, sometimes I just want each and every one of us as a human being to really believe in their capabilities of going through these difficult emotions. And I think what is very important, or through these difficult challenges, really going through them is difficult, but it's also freeing. So,
Yep.
walk through hell, go through it, be ready to face it. Whatever challenges you have, each one of us is so resilient, and you're not alone.
Mm.
Sharing your vulnerability with others will allow others also to open up. And it's crazy how we all go through similar experiences in life. And that, sharing vulnerability is a strength. Being vulnerable is a
Mm.
strength, contrary to what sometimes society makes us believe, like you have to be strong so you don't share. This is not right. On the contrary, share, open up, be, express, and let others do the same. And this is where we form really also very strong human connections. So there's a
Yes.
lot of
Amazing.
beauty in being vulnerable. And, we all need human connections. We are social creatures. We're not meant, we have nearly a
Mm.
pandemic of loneliness now. People feel so isolated, so alone. And this is where, I mean, we start not taking care of ourselves. When we're feeling lonely, we don't eat well, we don't sleep well. So really, really understand that you're not alone. Each and every one of us is navigating life and its challenges, and this is the beauty of humanity. And the moment you start opening up to unpleasant emotions, you know what? You'd start opening up in experiencing extremely positive emotions in a much stronger way. And it's a spectrum. So go through the
Mm,
difficult and you'll experience the joy. Go through the difficult and you'll experience more joy. And
yes.
it's precious. So that's what I would
Mm,
like to remind everyone.
yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much for the final message.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you, Tamara, as
Thank
well,
you.
for taking the time to join the call today. It's very eye-opening to listen to your story and the passion you have for your career and professionals. I wish you all the best with your
Thank
career,
you.
and may you lots of good health. Yeah, to continue on this
Well,
journey. Yeah.
thank you also for this opportunity to share that and, to empower others to believe that, we all have a choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Have a
Have a
good
lovely
weekend.
day. Thanks a lot. Take care. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yes, thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.